Anyway, good morning, all of you. Let's get started. Any questions from yesterday's class or last class? And please note that some people are submitting quiz after 1 week. That's not going to be accepted, okay? And also yesterday I sent you one message saying that quiz is going to be, second quiz is going to be after the last instruction day, 1 week after the last instruction day, that is on 18th November, okay? Similar to the first quiz, question paper will be sent around 9 o'clock. And whatever topics we are covering after quiz 1 or whatever portion that we cover in that quiz 1, excluding quiz 1 portion is going to be there for quiz 2, okay? And so it's going to be on similar lines to your quiz 1. And end exam is going to be sometime after your return to the institute. So if you don't have any questions, let me start. In today's class, we are going to look at some important topic related to bond and anchorage, okay? And if you refer to IS 456, page 42, page 42 to 42, 43, 44, 45. Okay, these are the pages, or some of these pages will be referring as a part of this topic, and also related tables. Actually, there is a separate section. You can see here development length and anchorage, section 5 in SP16 related to this, and also SP16 for designers convenience. SP16 is giving table 64, 65, 66 and 67 as like, you know, a design aids based on this, whatever we are going to discuss as a part of this bond and anchorage. So let's go through some theory before we look at some equations and based on the derivations based on which you obtain those equations. So let me go through this some related stuff here. Bond and anchorage. The composite action of a reinforced concrete member is mainly due to the bond and the adhesion between the reinforcing steel and the surrounding concrete. Okay, bond between concrete and steel facilitates the transfer of axial force from a rebar, reinforcing bar, to the surrounding concrete, and the bond ensures strain compatibility and composite action of composite material. The assumption of plane sections remain plane even after bending in the simple bending theory is valid only when there is effective bond between concrete and steel. Please note that whatever the entire theory that we developed as a part of limit state under collapse, under flexure, or under working stress method, when we looked at beams under flexure, we assumed the important assumption is plane sections remain plane before and after bending. This assumption is made even for working stress method as well as for limit state method. Okay, so that is valid only when there is effective bond between concrete and steel. The stress in a reinforcing bar can vary from point to point along its length, mainly due to bond resistance. Okay, stress in the rebar is not going to be constant, it's going to be varying from point to point along the length. If there is no bond, the stress in the bar will remain constant along its length, as in case of straight cable used in pre-stressing concrete or pre-stressed concrete member. So your stress in rebar is going to vary from point to point. That is one of the important point that you need to keep in mind. Okay. And if there is no bond, stress in the bar will remain constant along its length. And as a part of this bond, we are going to look at, first of all, we are going to understand what are the bond mechanisms and what is this bond stress, and what is the value of bond stress that we need to use for design, which is going to depend on grade of concrete and other things, which is given in page, a small table is given in page 43 of IS 456. Actually, when we were discussing about the concrete and steel in the earlier part of this course, okay, in the beginning few classes, I showed you this. Maybe if you are unable to recall, I will once again we'll go in detail in today's class. So we'll understand what are the bond mechanisms and two types of bond stresses. One is local bond or flexural bond or local bond stress. Another one is anchorage bond stress. And then we'll see codal requirements, and also we'll look at some other points before we go in and look at some illustrative examples. So let's look at bond mechanisms. The bond between concrete and steel develops due to the following three mechanisms. Chemical adhesion is a grip developed due to gum-like property of hydration products of cement in concrete. Okay, chemical adhesion. Frictional resistance developed due to relative movement between concrete and steel bars, depending on the surface characteristics of the bar and the grip developed due to shrinkage of concrete. So it's going to, this frictional resistance is going to depend on surface characteristics of a reinforcing bar, and also grip that is developed due to shrinkage of concrete. Shear resistance or dilatancy is due to mechanical interlock developed as a consequence of surface protrusions or rips provided in the deformed bars. Okay, and let me show you for completeness. This is the table I am referring. It's given in page 43 of IS 456. You can see a design bond stress in limit state methods. In limit state method for plain bars in tension. Plain bars, we have two types of bars, plain bars and deformed bars or ribbed bars. So whatever this table is for plain bars, what is the design bond stress? While designing, what bond stress we need to take depends on the grade of concrete. Okay, and bond stress is denoted with this symbol tau with subscript BD, and it's given in Newton per mm square. And this is for plain bars in tension. This is for plain bars in tension. What if the bar is ribbed bar? Please note that ribbed bar and plain bar, the surface characteristics are different. So for deformed bars, conforming to IS 1786, these values, whatever the values that are given here under section 26.2.1, 2.1.1, okay, whatever the values are given in this table, enhance those values or increase those values by 60%. If the bar is in, if the bar is deformed bar and in tension. If the bar is in compression instead of in tension, because the values that are given here are for plain bars in tension. If the bar is in compression, the values of bond stress for bars in tension shall be increased by 25%. So these are for plain bars in tension, and if the bars are ribbed bars, enhanced by 60%. If the bars are in compression instead of tension, enhance the values that are given here by 25%. Okay, so these design bond stress values will be using for checking once we calculate the developed bond stress. So now let's come back to this one, bond mechanism. Three types of mechanisms: chemical mechanism, or the bond that is arising due to chemical adhesion, bond arising due to frictional resistance, bond arising due to shear resistance. Plain bars cannot develop the bond resistance due to mechanical interlock, and the development and widespread use of deformed bars. Let me read it properly. Plain bars cannot develop the bond resistance due to mechanical interlock, and the development and widespread use of deformed bars is attributed to their superior bond resistance. The present trend is to prefer deformed bars for main reinforcement, plain bars for ties or stirrups. Usually we use the plain bars for ties or stirrups, but it's if you want, you can go and use deformed bars. Okay. And bond stress. What is this bond stress? It is nothing but the tangential or shear stress developed along the contact surface of the reinforcing bar and the surrounding concrete. So it's tangential or shear stress developed along the contact surface of the reinforcing bar and the surrounding concrete is generally termed as bond stress. There is a typing mistake. Okay. And is expressed in terms of tangential force per unit nominal surface area of the reinforcing bar. Please note that here, what are the units here? Bond stress units that are given in IS 456. Newton per mm square. What this mm square is, what this mm square stands for, that is what is mentioned here. Bond stress is expressed in terms of tangential force. That Newton is the tangential force per unit nominal surface area of the reinforcing bar. That is that mm square. Okay. Depending on the type of load situations, the following types of bond stresses develop in concrete, structural concrete members. So let's look at various types of bond stresses that are going to be developed. One of the bond stress is this one, flexural bond stress. This is also called local bond stress. And before we proceed, I suggest you please take a note of this figure. Here a simply supported beam is shown. These are the supports. Reaction at these supports are denoted with, please note that the maximum shear force is going to be same as the reaction. So that's why it is denoted with V, letter V here, and it is subjected to concentrated loads. Okay, please take a note of it. And this is your flexural reinforcement. This is the flexural reinforcement, and because this beam is going to be undergoing sagging moment, steel is provided on the tension side, and a small element is taken of length dx between these two sections, and the free body diagram of that portion is what is shown here. Free body diagram of that portion is shown here. Above the neutral axis, whatever portion is there, that is going to be in compression. And you know the stress distribution, it's going to be for limit state, it's going to be a combination of parabolic shape as well as a rectangle shape. That is what is shown here. And C is your resultant compression, compressive force. Please note that this section, these two sections are separated by a distance dx. So if C is this one on this side, C plus dc, M is the moment acting on this side, M plus dm, and V is the shear that is acting, and T is the tension. T is the tension that is acting in the rebar, and T is the tension on this side. T plus dt is the tension on this side. And this is a section of your beam, section of this flexural member. and D is the effective depth. JD is the lever arm. Lever arm distance is nothing but the distance between the resultant compressive force to the CG of the reinforcement or resultant tensile force. And also note that another important parameter that is shown here, and here these are the rebars. Please note that by the time you come here, you know how to design reinforcement, tension reinforcement for a flexural member. And once you have that reinforcement, you find the surface area of that reinforcement, or the perimeter of that reinforcement, perimeter of all the bars. That is what is, we will be using this one. That is denoted with sigma, this letter sigma, and O. Capital O is nothing but showing its perimeter. Sum of all the perimeters for all the rebars. Rebars need not be of same diameter that you are already aware of now by this time. So sum of all the perimeters of all the rebars. That is what is the sigma O. And here free body diagram of the portion, free body diagram of the portion surrounding the rebar is what is shown here. T is the tension on this side. This is the portion of the rebar. T plus dt is the tension on the other side. The length or this bar length is taken as dx, this element, and you can see this is what your bond, the stress due to bond that is developed. This rebar is embedded in the concrete, okay, and when this it is subjected to tension. Please note that T, and what is the idea of writing here? On this side it is written as T, on this side it is written as P plus dt. So the idea is the tension is not going to be same. The value of the force is on this side is not going to be same as this side. So it's going to be pulled down to one side, and that pull is going to be resisted by the bond stress that is going to be developed on the surface area of the rebar. So that is what is denoted with the tau B here. Please note that in page 43, it is design bond stress what is given. That depends on the grade of concrete. So that is denoted with the tau BD, and here it is the bond stress here. It's not design bond stress. It is bond stress that is developed on the surface of the rebar. So that is denoted with tau subscript B. So please take a note of this figure. Professor Amlan, you want to add something?
No, writer, you go ahead.
Please take a note of this figure. Okay. So let me proceed. Bond stress or the flexural bond stresses develop in a member under flexure due to variation of bending moment or shear at a section. And whatever we have seen that figure, in that figure, differential moment dm from section x to y causes additional tension dt. Okay. So flexural bond stresses, the bond stresses that are developed when a member is under flexure, or what are these bond stresses? And they are developed due to variation. Bending moment and shear force are not going to be constant due to variation of bending moment and shear force at a section. Okay, so now let's develop some relations. dm to dt. dm is nothing but differential moment, and dt is nothing but your differential tension or additional tension. And based on this free body diagram here, which is shown and also this one. Let's develop some relations. And please note that we have already, when we are discussing, or when we started discussing about this earlier classes, we developed some of these relations. Okay, when we are discussing about the shear, okay, nominal shear, that equation, we looked at some of these relations. But anyway, let's go through them for completeness. So now, whatever relations I'm going to show, they are based on this free body diagram. Okay. So you write the, first of all, before I show that, because the details are not given, please note that this moment M, how it is related to T or C. M is nothing but, or M is C times JD or T times JD, and M plus DM is C plus DC times JD, or M plus DM is T plus DT times JD. Okay. And now taking moment about one of the points, we can write an equilibrium equation. Let me go to that, maybe for completeness, let me go to the previous lectures where we covered this one. So this is what I am referring. T is going to be M divided by JD, or M is equal to T times JD. And in the slide which we are referring, there it is written as DT. Instead of that, here it is written as delta T. So T plus delta T or T plus DT is M plus DM, or M plus delta M divided by JD. If you agree with these two relations, then you subtract this from here and you get this relation. So dt or delta T is equal to delta M or dm divided by JD. This is what I want you to make a note, this relation. And rest of the things we looked at when we were discussing about nominal shear calculations. But at this stage, for today's class, just it's enough if you make a note of this one. So now let me go back. And if you agree with that, that is what is written here. dt is equal to dm divided by jd. jd is lever arm. This unbalanced bar force is transferred to the surrounding concrete by means of flexural bond between the flexural bond developed along the interface between concrete and the surface of the rebar. And tau b is the flexural bond stress. And if tau b is the flexural bond stress, what is going to be the resistance that is developed? Resistance that is developed is going to be tau b multiplied by the surface area of the rebar. And also this kind of resistance. But please note that pull is going to be on this side and resistance is going to be here. I hope these arrow marks are clear to you. Actually, it is indicated as though the force is acting towards this side. So tau b times the surface area of bar. How many bars are there? So for all those bars, you sum it up. Sigma O times tau b is going to give you, this is perimeter. Please note that sigma O is perimeter multiplied by the length dx is going to give you total surface area, multiplied by tau b is going to give you the resistance. So we can write like this. equilibrium equation. Equilibrium equation for what? Equilibrium equation for this. Please note that using this free body diagram, we got a relation dt is equal to dm divided by jd. And now we are looking at this figure, and we are trying to write the equilibrium equation. dt is equal to tau b multiplied by sigma o times dx. So that is what this. And you can rearrange it, and you can check what is and also express this dt in terms of dm. dt in terms of dm you can express and write tau b in this manner. Or you can even write in terms of shear. Shear force is nothing but derivative of bending moment, spatial derivative of bending moment. So instead of dm by dx, you can write shear force v. So please take a note of these relations. And this tau b is what is called flexural. This whatever this bond, the stress that is arising, the bond stress that is arising here is due to flexure. So it's called flexural bond stress or local bond stress. It's going to be different at different locations along the length of the beam. Okay. So now let's proceed further. The flexural bond stress is higher at locations of high shear force. Anyway, V is appearing in the numerator. So tau b is going to be, the value of tau b is going to be more if V is more, or as the tau b is going to increase as V increases. And also tau b is going to reduce, tau b is going to decrease as you increase the perimeter. How do you increase the perimeter? How do you increase the perimeter? You use more number of smaller diameter bars. Then you can increase the perimeter. So you can reduce this bond stress by increasing the perimeter. And JD will not be able to do anything because it's going to be the distance from the resultant compressive force to the CG of the reinforcement. Okay. So tau b can be as V increases, tau b increases. And if you want to reduce tau b, one way to do it is increase this perimeter by providing, instead of less number of larger diameter bars, you can provide more number of smaller diameter bars. So let's proceed and read this one. The flexural bond stress is higher at locations of high shear force, but it can be reduced by providing an increase in number of bars of smaller diameter, yielding or resulting the same equivalent area of reinforcement. The actual bond stress is influenced by flexural cracking, local slip, and other secondary effects which are not taken into account. Whatever equation we derived, we have not taken into account any local slip or other effects. Okay. So some here a cracked member or a portion of the beam is shown, a beam which is cracked. Okay, let's read this caption here. Constant moment region between flexural cracks. This is constant moment region. Okay, close to the mid span, and these are the flexural cracks. Let's assume flexural cracks are developed like this. This is the rebar, and the tension in the reinforcing bar is it's a schematic. It's plotted qualitatively. It is plotted here. At the crack location, tension in the rebar is going to be more. Okay, in between, if you come here, this is a crack, this is one crack, this is another crack. Here in the middle of this portion, tension in the rebar is going to be less, compared to the close to the crack location. And how about the whatever bond stress that we just derived, whatever bond stress, that equation that we derived, how it is going to be vary at the crack location. At the crack location, here please note that at the crack location there is no bond between steel and concrete. Bond is lost. That's why this crack is formed. Or because of the crack, bond is lost. So bond stress is going to be 0 at the crack location. In between, it's going to have a variation. Okay? Variation of flexural or local bond stress. The effect of the effect of flexural cracks on flexural bond stress in the constant moment. Anyway, whatever we discussed through those figures, that is what is actually mentioned here once again. Let's skip this one. Experimental investigations have shown that splitting cracks develop in the vicinity of flexural cracks where local bond stresses are high. So this you need to keep in mind. Wherever local bond stresses are high, in the vicinity of flexural cracks, splitting cracks are going to be developed. Splitting cracks in the sense, I will show you a figure, then you will get an idea. Something like this. Cracks surrounding the rebar. Cracks surrounding the rebar. Splitting cracks are going to be developed in the vicinity of the regions where flexural bond stresses are in the vicinity of flexural cracks. Okay, where local bond stresses or flexural bond stresses are high. Hence, it is preferable to limit the magnitude of local bond stress by using large number of smaller diameter bars than using few larger diameter bars. However, with the development and wider use of deformed or high bond bars, means these deformed bars are going to have the surface friction rips. Because of that, bond is going to be high. That's why it's written high bond bars. More emphasis is laid on anchorage or development lengths required than the local bond stress. We'll see what is anchorage and development length. So anyway, this is some information how to calculate local bond stress and other things. Okay, and also Indian Standard Code IS 456 does not specify any permissible values for flexural or local bond stress. Okay. So now let's look at anchorage bond stress. First of all, what is this anchorage bond stress? Let's understand this through this figure. It's a cantilever beam or a cantilever beam subjected to some distributed load, and cantilever beam is going to be undergoing hogging moment. So steel is actually placed on the tension side, which is on the top side. Okay. You please take a note of this figure. This is a section of this cantilever beam, rectangular section, and the steel reinforcement. Even though it is shown here as one rebar, it's not necessary that it is only one rebar. Entire steel, all the steel is dumped at this location. For representing it in a figure, all this steel is dumped at one location at the CG of the steel, and that is denoted with AS. Okay, and now let's see this when this cantilever beam is subjected to distributed load like this, where the maximum bending moment is going to be developed, where maximum bending moment is going to be developed, where maximum shear force is going to be developed for a cantilever beam subjected to uniformly distributed load like this. Maximum bending moment is going to be at this support, at this point B. At B, maximum bending moment is going to be there. Okay, so please take a note of it. At B, maximum bending moment is going to be there. So if bending moment is maximum here, bending moment is maximum here, what is going to be your the tension in the reinforcement? Tension in the reinforcement is also going to be maximum at point B. So let's assume you are providing the rebars. You are providing the rebar, and if you provide only rebar only up to this point, up to only point B, you are providing the rebar. Beyond that, you are not providing the rebar. What is going to happen? At B, tension in the rebar is maximum, okay, which is going to depend on the maximum bending moment. And if you don't provide beyond this point some kind of anchorage, this bar is developing tension, and if you are not anchoring it beyond this point or not holding it back, if you are not holding the rebar back beyond this point, it's going to be pulled out. It's going to be pulled out. So that is the reason we are going to provide some length beyond that point. This is what is called theoretical cutoff point, or this point. Actually, steel is only required up to this point. Beyond this point also we are providing or extending the steel bar, because unless we do that, this bar is not going to have enough anchorage to take the tension that is going to be developed at this maximum tension that is going to be developed at point B. So now, as a part of this this lecture, we are going to discuss about how much I need to extend, beyond this point. That is denoted with LD, capital L, subscript D, development length. This is what is development length. Please take a note of this figure. And also along this small portion of this rebar AB, okay, let's assume that we extended the bar beyond this support by a distance this LD, and this is the end of the rebar AB. This portion, on this portion of the rebar, how the stress distribution is going to be, that is what is shown here. Stress distribution, variation of bond stress over this portion. Stress is going to be maximum at B, and as you go away from B, stress is going to reduce, bond stress. So that is what is shown here. And this is a rebar, and on the surface of rebar, design bond stress. Please note that whatever resistance that is going to develop on the top, maximum resistance that is going to be developed, maximum resistance this portion is going to offer, that is going to depend on the grade of concrete here, and that is where you will be using your page 43 information, page 43 of IS 456, design bond stress, tau BD. And in reality, the variation or the distribution of stress is going to be like this. For theoretical calculation, for design purpose, for simplified calculation, instead of taking this complicated stress distribution, we assume it to be constant. So this is what is average bond stress. For design purpose, we are going to consider this one. So please take a note of this. Please take a note of these two figures as well as this one. And here, this is for explanation's sake, I have taken a cantilever beam, but similar kind of explanation can be given for other support conditions of other beams. Take a note of it quickly. Okay. So let me proceed. Anchorage, development, bond stress, anchorage or development bond stress. Okay. The anchorage bond stress is stress developed in the vicinity of extreme end or cutoff point of bars in tension or in compression. And whatever I explained, that is what is written here. Figure shows cantilever slab or beam in which tensile stress in the bar occurs. Tensile stress in the bar varies from maximum sigma s at the continuous end B to 0 to a value of 0 at the end A. You know what is A and B? I have shown you in the figure. Since the moment is maximum at B, tensile stress is also maximum at B, and to develop the maximum stress sigma s, the bar requires a certain length AB, which is termed as anchorage or development length. Also, stress is 0 at the discontinuous end. That is theoretically. This is how the stress distribution is going to be. For design purpose, we are going to assume it to be constant average value. Okay. So now let's go further and also see how to develop some relation. The variation of bond stress from A to B is shown in figure. A similar situation exists in bars, in the bars terminated at the supports of a simply supported beam. This is what I mentioned. For design purposes, an average bond stress assuming uniform distribution over length AB is specified in the Indian Standard Code IS 456-2000. The average bond stress tau BD. Average bond stress tau BD. Now, with this free body diagram, you can easily write tau BD can be expressed in terms of diameter of bar, stress in the steel, sigma s, and anchorage length LD. So, you can write this relation. You can write this relation. What is this? Pi times this symbol that is used for denoting this rebar, pi times pi d, or pi times this phi. Okay. This is nothing but your perimeter. Perimeter times what is the embedded length of the bar beyond point B? What is the length that is there? That is LD. That is the development length or anchorage length. So this is going to be a total surface area, and multiplied by the design bond stress, which is tau BD, which is given in IS 456. That is actually a tangential force per unit surface area. So this is the surface area multiplied by the stress, design stress is going to give you the resisting, the force that is resisting, and the force that is pulling the bar. Force that is pulling the bar is going to depend on your bending moment, and because maximum bending moment. Because of maximum bending moment, stress is going to be maximum. Stress in the rebar. So stress in the rebar times the cross-sectional area of rebar. Please note that this relation is written for one rebar. This relation is written for one rebar. And similar kind of relation, if you have n number of rebars, you can write for all the rebars. Or whichever bar is critical, you can check for that. Okay, so tau BD is, it can be written like this: diameter of the bar times stress in the bar divided by 4 times development length. Or we can rearrange this, because please note that tau BD is the design value, design bond stress. It's already given in the code book. We can rearrange. What is unknown is this LD. How much length I need to extend beyond the whatever is required. So that this relation can be rearranged and written in this manner. Okay, LD is pi times sigma s divided by 4 times tau BD. Is it clear? Tau BD depends on the grade of concrete, and I showed you all that details in page 43 of IS. And what about this sigma s? What about this sigma s? To calculate sigma s, you need to know what is the maximum bending moment, but it's not required, because we can take sigma s, we can take it as 0.87 Fy. Because anyway, the stress in the steel, we are limiting the maximum value of stress in steel. We are going to limit it to 0.87 Fy. So instead of waiting and trying to calculate maximum bending moment stress in the bar at that location, we can take this as 0.87 Fy. So LD, development length, is going to depend on your diameter of the bar and the grade of steel and grade of concrete. Okay, and also development length is so anyway, development length is going to, so this is what is actually given here in SP16. In SP16, if you see table 64, 65, 66, they are given for what is the developmental, whatever equation that we looked at, that is actually made it into tables depending on the diameter of the bar, depending on the grade of concrete, depending on the grade of steel. This table 64 is for Fy is equal to 250 and 240 Newton per mm square. Okay, and this is for Fe415, and here you can read this one in all the tables. Note the development lengths given above are for stress of 0.87 Fy in the bar, the maximum stress. Development length is calculated for the maximum stress that is permitted in the bar. Fe415 steel and Fe500. So that that equation, that simple equation that we looked at, it is made into tables, and they are given in for designers' handiness. They are given in the form of 64, 65, 66 tables in SP16. Okay. Any questions? And there is an issue with this. Okay, I know I just found LD value. Please note that what is this portion? What is this portion? This is the cantilever slab or cantilever beam, and this cantilever beam actually supported on a, this can be a column, this can be a column, or this can be a wall. Even whether it is column or whether it is wall, it's going to have certain width. If my development length, if my LD exceeds, the calculated LD exceeds this portion, what I need to do? I need to bend this bar. And when you do that bending, how to actually find the equivalent length, development length for that. That is also given in the code book. Okay. Any questions? We'll see that. So that is what is here. That is what is given in SP16. SP16 table 67 is giving, if you bend the bar like this, 90 degrees bend, and if you bend it in the form of this kind of hook, or 180 degrees bend. And the specifications, how you need to bend the bar, and what should be this the radius here. Everything is given. It's going to depend on whether the bar is mild steel or HYSD bar, cold worked steel. Depending on that, this symbol K is there here. let me magnify. This symbol or this K is there, K times 5 of K plus 1 times 5. What is this K? It depends on the type of bar. And this is how you need to bend. The radius should be K times 5. And if it is 180 degrees bend or a hook like this, this portion, this straight portion should be at least 4 times the diameter minimum. And here it should, if it is 180 degrees, 4 times the diameter of the bar minimum. Okay. So depending on whether the situation, please note that you calculated development length using the formula. Just now we have seen the formula. You calculated LD value, you calculated, and this LD you need to accommodate in this portion. And if please note that cover should be there here. Here cover should be there. So cover portion has to be deducted. So whatever portion that is left out, if that portion is very small, if that portion is smaller than what is required for LD, then you need to bend this bar. And please note that this is not the only reinforcement you are going to have. You are going to have other reinforcement for the column. And here you are going to have shear reinforcement, all those kind of things. So with all those constraints, you need to make sure you provided the required development length. So depending on the situation, you may either go with 90 degrees bend here or in the form of a hook. That depends on the situation. So if I go for 90 degrees bend, and what is the equivalent development length? If I go with the 180 degrees bend or a hook or the form of a hook, what is going to be the equivalent development length? And please note that whatever the equivalent value plus and this portion is already there, this value together, it should be greater than LD. So what is the contribution if I bend it as 90 degrees? What is the contribution if I bend it as a hook? That is what is given in this table, 67. And basically, this table is developed based on this simple, we will go through, here we will go in detail in tomorrow's class, this codal requirements for bond. But before I close in for today's class, I want to complete this one. If you please take a note of these figures. Please take a note of these figures. If you go with 90 degrees bend, and this is the point where the bend is starting. Beyond the point where bend is starting, what is the contribution of it? That is denoted with LE here. LE is nothing but that contribution, equivalent development length. Okay, this LE value, how do you get this LE value? That is what is actually written here. LE is 8 times the diameter if you bend 90 degrees. LE is, and please note that LE is counted from here, from the point where the bend is starting. This LE portion is 16 times the diameter of the bar if you go with this type of U-type hook or 180 degrees bend. So 8 times and 16 times the diameter of the bar. And you need to follow the other specifications which are given in SP16, okay? Depending on whether the bar is plain bar or cold or this one HYSD bar, okay? Cold worked HYSD bar, the radius, all those things, those specifications you need to take care. Okay, these specifications you need to comply with. So now let's read this table whether it's making sense or not, and after that let's close. Okay, so the diameter of the bar is 6 mm. If the diameter of the bar is 6 mm, if you are going with U-type hook, 180 degrees hook, just now I told, the equivalent development length, LE value is 16 times the diameter of the bar. What is 16 times 6? What is 16 times 6? Please note that this diameter bar here is in mm, and here the anchorage value is in centimeter. So 6 times 16 is 96 mm or 9.6 mm, the 9.6 centimeters. And similarly, if the bend is 90 degrees bend, it is 8 times the diameter. 6 times 8 is 48 mm or 4.8 centimeters. And you can even check this one, 36. 36 times 16. 36 times 16 is 576 mm or 57.6 centimeters. 36 times 8 is 288 mm or 28.8 centimeters. So this is how these tables are developed. This table 67, okay? And I also suggest you to go and read this one, SP16. Anyway, there is nothing much, okay? Here, this is what is mentioned. A standard hook has an anchorage value equivalent to straight length of 16 times diameter of the bar. 90 degrees bend has an anchorage value of 8 times the diameter of the bar. Whatever I just explained. Okay? So with this, we'll stop, and further we will discuss in tomorrow's class, and also we look at some examples, okay? And also we'll see what is this reinforcement splicing and other things, and we'll look at some examples in tomorrow's class. So we'll be focusing on page 43, 40, 42, 43, 44, 45 of IS 456. I'm going to stop here. Professor Amlar, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to mention that, see, in order to make reinforced concrete a composite material, the bond is a very important issue. And that's what we are covering. Till now, we had assumed that they behaved like a composite, but today we are studying that how to ensure that they behave like a composite. Okay.
Okay, if there are no questions, let's meet in tomorrow's class. And this week we are going to have only 3 classes, including today's class. Okay. Okay, thank you.